at what cost is that when you set up 5 bank accounts and you run that type of LLC? I mean, what is the potential ramifications for doing that? Well, this is the issue that I have with this 5 bank account approach, is that when it comes to running a business, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that when you set up an LLC right here, or any business, okay, that you're running, the number one mistake that business owners make when it comes to running their business is they own assets, okay, where they conduct business. Okay, this is the number one mistake we find time and time again with business owners when we start working for them, that they have an active business and they have assets inside of there. So what am I referring to here? Really simple. Let's say that I had a business that was involved in residential assisted living. So I have people that are coming, I'm renting out rooms to them, providing some care services to individuals, assisted living, and I end up buying the property in the name of my residential assisted living LLC. Well, the problem with that is that if something goes wrong with one of those patients, or not patients, but residents, and they're hurt, maybe they pass away, they wander off and they're struck by a car and they have dementia, the family members are going to sue the business. And of course, when you sue this LLC, the assets of the LLC are going to be at risk. And one of those assets is going to be this property. Maybe that property is worth $600,000. Well, by putting that asset inside of your business now, you have risked that asset to your business's liabilities. So this goes back to that 5 bank account thing that people are talking about, where I see a huge problem with following that methodology. You see, when you set up your LLC here and you have these 5 bank accounts that you've created for yourself, you're going to spread your money out amongst all these accounts. Maybe you have $400,000 spread out amongst these 5 separate accounts. Well, that's a lot of money to keep inside of your business. And depending on what your business or what type of business you're engaged in, there is liability out there. And if you were involved in, let's say, a car accident while you're conducting business, maybe you have a part-time employee, maybe there's some discrimination claim that's brought against you or harassment claim that's brought against your business. Well, then all of those accounts are in your LLC name. So now they're all at risk. I remember a client I worked with years ago. This exact same strategy came back to bite them, because what had occurred is 2 ex-employees had filed a claim against the business asserting that the business owner didn't pay him overtime, that he worked him and didn't pay any overtime. And so now he wanted to hold the business accountable, and they were going after it, and they were asking for $1 million in damages. Now, all of his cash now was tied up in this business in these multiple accounts. And when he reached out to me, he said, "What do I do?" Well, see, that's just the problem. When you adopt this methodology, then you've put all those assets at risk and there's nothing you can do. So how do you then take the 5 bank account approach, if that's what you want to do, but also put yourself in a position where you can protect these assets from potential creditors? Well, here's what I like to do with that 5 bank account approach, if people are going to adopt it, and with the money you make in your business. So what I would do is create a secondary LLC over here. I'm going to set this up in Wyoming. I'm going to call this my Wyoming LLC. I'm going to call it my banking LLC. That's just, it's not going to be titled that, but I just want you to think about this for a moment. So you make money in your business on this side. Now you take out your money. Maybe you leave a little bit in the operating account. You leave $50,000 in the account, and you pull the $350K out of this business. So what I would do is I would have one account, maybe 2 accounts. I'd have a payroll account here. So I would have 2 accounts of my business. One is my revenue account, and my second is my payroll account. Okay, so I'd have 2 accounts there. So I would keep $50K between these 2 accounts, or whatever that number is that you need to make sure you can make payroll on the next cycle. Pull the rest of the money out, put it in your name. Then turn around and move that money over here into your banking LLC. Now, with your banking LLC, if you need to have an experiment account, if you need to have a reinvesting account, if you need to have a tax account or a savings account, great. Create as many different accounts as you want in this limited liability company. You see, the liability for your business is right here. This is the entity that is, if the lawsuit's going to hit, it's going to hit that entity. And what we don't want to have is a lot of cash sitting inside of this entity. Where you want your cash is over here in this entity right here. The reason we want our cash over here is that this entity has no liability, because it's not doing anything to bring liability to it. So we want to make sure that we're putting our assets, okay, in an entity that does not have liability. So now my money's over here in this banking LLC. So if, say you run into a few tough months where sales aren't where they're supposed to be, and this $50,000 account now is sitting at, I don't know, let's say it's down to $5,000. Well, if you've got over here $350K, don't worry. You can always loan money back to your business. Now, see, this is one strategy that I think every business owner should highly consider when it comes to structuring their business. By creating this cash LLC on the side and keeping your cash account low in your active business, so you're not putting those assets at risk and parking them over in the Wyoming LLC, you're actually building a stronger asset protection plan for yourself by doing this. Because what you'll do is when you take the money out, you put it in your name, and then you put it over here, when you need to put money back into your business, you do it via a loan from your Wyoming LLC. Now, when you loan money to your operating business, the orange box here, your Wyoming LLC will file a UCC1 financing statement. Guys, this is so simple. It's one piece of paper. You record that piece of paper. Let's say my business here is in Ohio. I'll record it with the Secretary of State or wherever they require it in Ohio. Record this one piece of paper. Now, if I've loaned my business here $100,000, I now have secured that loan against any assets inside of this business. So if I have a vehicle inside of that business, if I have, computers, things like that, my bank account, whatever in my account, up to $100,000, if a creditor were to sue this business, then the first $100,000 goes back to my Wyoming LLC. You see, the 5 bank account strategy that people talk about, the problem is they don't account for liability. That if something goes wrong with your business, all of that cash that you're generating is going to be at risk. But it's a simple strategy. All you need to do, set up a Wyoming LLC, treat it as what I call my banking LLC, move the money to yourself, put it up in there, and just start making loans back to yourself as you need it. You can do all the same things, have as many accounts as you want in the Wyoming LLC, but it puts you in a stronger financial situation in the event of a lawsuit. Hey, if you want to learn more about how to structure your business, we teach a one-day tax and asset protection workshop. It's completely free for you to attend. If you look in the show notes, I do have a link where you can get registered for it. They're typically held on Saturdays at these events. You're going to learn all about limited liability companies, corporations, how to structure them for real estate, how to structure them for your business. And then we're going to teach you the tax side of running a business and all the various ways in which you can use the tax code to put more money back in your pocket. And what makes this event even more special is the fact that on the event, we bring our attorneys and CPAs to the event to answer your individual questions. So whatever you have, you've been thinking about, hey, should I be setting up a land trust? Does an LLC, as a C Corp make more sense than a traditional S Corporation Inc.? Come to the event with those questions. They'll be answered. We typically answer 1,400 questions on the event. People definitely leave there in a better place than when they started, and I look forward to seeing you there.